What's going on, everyone? Sound test? Can everybody hear me okay? What's going on, everyone? I'm gonna get started in just a second. I got suitably large. Yeah, hopefully we'll have a stream full of no technical difficulties. Hopefully both the audio and the video will work for the whole stream. Because it didn't last time. The video broke, and then I fixed the video, and then the audio broke. So, can't win them all. Okay, so put your questions in the chat if you have any questions for me. I'll do like 5 to 10 minutes of Q&A as usual. I got a couple updates about the channel, and then we're going to do some advent of code, and then some EMKC challenges, and then some more Q&A, and then if we get into something else, then we'll do that. Okay, first, couple channel updates. So I've ordered my silver play button. It's going to be here in 1 to 2 weeks. I'll do a special unboxing so we can all do that together. And then I got my Discord thing on now, which is cool. They finally sent that to me. The next thing is, I know everybody's really sad that the Node.js series is over, but on Sunday it's done. I had more to do, and I still may do it, but I picked a logical stopping point. The only thing in the Node.js series that I didn't do is a couple community modules, ones that are built by the Node.js community and then published to NPM. Those I did not do because I wanted to move on to something else. But I may come back and do that, or I'll cover it in kind of a one-off kind of video. But Sunday's the last one. It's on TCP networking and Node.js, and after that, I'm going to go back to creating some other videos. I like to create the kind of one-off, sometimes they're funny videos. Craigslist video is an example of that. I enjoyed creating that. The snake challenge, and just kind of these ad hoc videos. I did web scraping in Python one day, and then I did Discord bots, another day in Node.js. So I think it's good to diversify it. It's the Engineer Man channel. It's not a Python channel or a JavaScript channel or anything like that. It's a number of languages. It's a diverse skill set. Plus, the community drives that too. I mean, everybody in Discord is about 20, close to 3,000 in there now, and not, everybody doesn't do the same thing. There's Go programmers in there, there's Python, TypeScript. There's tons of different things going on in that server, tons of different skill sets. So I wanted to make sure that everything, was covered. But I got a couple cool ideas coming for videos. I think you're really going to like them. A couple of them are pretty entertaining. They might even be as entertaining as the Craigslist video. So I think, yeah, I think you'll like that. Okay, let's jump into some questions here. Okay, so no stupid questions. First of all, how can I access post and get method variables in Python? So in Python, you got to remember that Python is a general programming language. So it's not specific to web. So built into core Python, you're not going to find get and post variables. However, if you do use like say I'm trying to think of one, like Flask, for instance. If you use Flask, what Flask will do is it takes HTTP requests that come in and it parses them, and then it allows you to access variables that will give you the query string variables. I assume that's what you mean by get. Query string variables, and then also the stuff in the body, whether it's URL encoded or JSON or something like that. It's if you The reason people think sometimes that there are post and get variables is because there is a language, PHP. I'm sure some of you have heard of it. PHP does have post and get variables built in to the core of PHP. And the reason it has that is because PHP was created to be a web language. It wasn't designed to be anything else, though you can use it for anything you'd like. It's certainly a Turing complete language and able to do anything any other language can. It's just it's not well suited for that. But it is well suited for web, and therefore the PHP guys, they exposed all these global variables that are related to the web. Things like getting the client IP, things like getting post and get variables. They even have a magic request variable which just does everything. And so that's kind of what's up with that. Why did you start YouTube? What is your inspiration? I put up a couple videos a long time ago. A friend of mine who he had asked for some content. He said, hey Brian, I'm getting starting out with programming. I don't know where to go or what to do. Can you help me on this one discrete topic? And it was in C. He was asking about a C program. He was asking about, I think, threading. And one of my very first videos was excuse me. One of my very first videos was on C threading, and I thought, you know what? I'll just make a video for him. And so I did that, and I sent it to him, and he's like, wow, that's a really good video. I'm sure other people would love to see this. So I started posting some of the videos on Google Plus and a couple other places, not Reddit, not Facebook, nothing like that. I think Google Plus and maybe Twitter. I don't remember exactly. This was about a year, almost 2 years ago. And I got a lot of positive reception to it. People said, wow, you're good at teaching. This info is very clear. You should think about making more. And that's kind of what I did. I just started making more. I made that snake game video, and people love that video. It got like 250,000 views in a couple months, which at the time was a lot. I only had, I don't know, 500 subscribers, 1,000 maybe. So to see that kind of positive reaction for a video let me know that I should make more. And so I did. And then, here we are today. 125,000 subscribers now. A massive Discord and a big community that helps each other every day. So my inspiration present day is just to keep that moving and to keep giving more tools to the people to help learn, more resources, more videos, and whatnot. It's all about the community. It's not about me. Advice for finding beginner level open source projects to contribute on. Yeah, that's a tough one. So the one thing that GitHub, I believe, fails in doing is GitHub does not always show you, this is a beginner project or this is an intermediate project, this is an expert project. You can kind of gauge what it is based on the subject matter. You probably wouldn't find an artificial intelligence open source project that would be for a beginner, and that's just because that subject matter is more on the advanced side. And so it's for experts. I don't have a good answer for that. The hardest thing in programming, and I've been saying this for probably 10, 15 years now is that the hardest thing about programming is figuring out what you want to build. It's the hardest thing. Once you figure out what you want to build, then the task to build it is more or less an objective one, because you have the tools, you have the documentation, you have, in some cases the knowledge to just go and build it. But the hard part is the ideation. I'm not good at ideation. I'm okay at it, but I'm more an engineer than I am a kind of an ideas guy. What's your thoughts on Golang as a language? I I like it. I do like Golang. I don't use it that often, though there is a couple there's a couple things I have built. I built something called Dispenser D, which was a message queue system. It's an open source project on GitHub that's written entirely in Go. I'm sure it could be done better, but I've been using it in production on another project now for 3 years, and it's never broken, so it's pretty stable. And then the Piston API. Piston is the engine that executes all the code that you do when you're in Discord running Felix Run, and that API is written in Go. So I got a couple projects in Go that I'm doing right now. I would like to use it more. It's just I don't know it well enough, and I like to use tools that I know very well. That way I can get the job done quick. And so it's sort of just an experimentation language for me. It's not something that I kind of grab, immediately as the first tool in my bag. What would you recommend for people who are just starting programming? So I get this question, not even exaggerating, I get it probably once a day. And whoever asks that, I'll tell them the same thing I told. Actually, Steph, if you could put who is writing these questions so I can address them directly, that'd be good. Just starting from that question on. The answer to that question is you have to do one thing first before you embark on this journey that is programming. You first have to pick what kind of programming is it you're looking to do, because what sector of programming that you're going to be doing will kind of drive what technology you're going to use. So are you interested in mobile development? Do you want to write native apps? Are you interested in desktop programming? Are you interested in artificial intelligence? Are you interested in the web? Are you interested in burning, burning your code to a chip? Are you interested in embedded systems? So depending on which of those you pick depends on where you go next. Of course, if you're interested in mobile development, you're going to be using Java if you're on Android, or you're going to be using Swift or Objective-C if you're on iOS. That's the tools for that. So that's that. If you're going to do general programming, Python is a good choice for general programming. So is Go, and so is C. If you're going to be doing things like web, then you got to know HTML and CSS. You got to know JavaScript. And then for the back end, you can also use JavaScript for the back end, but you'll also get into something like Ruby, possibly. And then if you're doing embedded work, C, C++. If you're doing game design, Ducky will tell you C#. That's very common there. So once you've picked what industry you want to go in, then simply just seek out the resources to learn the one or two things that you need to learn. And for people starting out, I always recommend don't try to bite off more than you can chew. Like don't go out and try to learn 10 languages and know them all in kind of a mediocre fashion. It's more advisable to just learn the one. Yeah, Dan Kelly, thanks for pointing that out. PHP. Well, I don't care for PHP as a language. PHP is highly accessible to everybody because on most Linux OSs, it's a one-line install. There's no web server to run. Well, I should say there's no PHP web server to run. Like the minute you install Apache, you get PHP, and it's not hard to get going with that. So yeah, PHP is fine. I think if you're starting out, even though it's going to teach you bad practices, it at least gets you moving in the right direction, and you don't have this huge ramp-up period to kind of get your project live. That's the one good thing PHP offers, is PHP is as simple as just installing PHP, dropping index.php in your web root, and then poof, you have a dynamic application just like that, no problem. Okay, that question was Blazing Cobra, 722. Thanks for that question. Let's see, Andy Benfeld, when will we start adding other engineering other than software engineering? That's a tough one. So I have most of my background is software engineering, but my educational background is electrical engineering. So there is stuff I could do in that. It's been so long, and focus primarily on the software stuff. So I don't know exactly when or if we're going to do a shift there. I'm going to mess up that name. Boyakasha? I'm sorry if I screwed that up. That sounded incorrect. At what project size should I start worrying about version control? You should start worrying about version control immediately, because the version control is not always about just, you know, a bunch of people working on the same project. Yes, that is one important thing, but as an individual user, you can benefit from version control as well. Like for instance, when you make a commit, it's stored in your repo forever. When you start changing files and you realize, oh, I didn't want to change those, I want to revert them, you can use Git to revert those files. Easy as that. Or you can make new commits, and then you can see what your code looked like at any random point in the past. So make sure you're not thinking of version control as something that only teams use, because that's not accurate. The individual user can benefit from version control just as much as large teams. Okay, there's more questions. I'm going to answer them all at the end. I want to get into some of the code. But keep putting your questions in the comment. I'm going to get to everyone that was put into my chat here. Okay, so first we're doing make myself small. Small. Bam. That's good enough. Okay, what we're doing now, we're going to start with advent of code. And advent of code is going to be a new puzzle every day, I believe, for however many days. Looks like 25. Oops. Okay. All right. Let me drag this over here. Now, unfortunately, a couple of people ruined it a little bit for me. There's a lot of chatter in Discord about this, and people posting answers and spoilers and whatnot. So yeah, the link's in the chat right now. It's also on Discord. We have a special channel called Advent of Code, and if you use the special code that Bratwurst put up, you can be part of our private leaderboard. So I urge you to do that. But there's going to be a new puzzle each day, so we're going to look at the first one here. You just click there. Oh, I'm going to make this a little smaller. Okay, so this is all just kind of stories or whatever. We're going to skip over the story and just scroll down to what you're supposed to do. So we're going to calibrate a device. Frequency drift detected, cannot maintain destination lock. The device shows a sequence of changes in frequency. Your puzzle input will be those changes in frequency. So a value like +6 means the current frequency increases by 6. A value like -3 means the current frequency decreases by 3. For example, if the device displays frequency changes of +1, -2, +3, +1, then starting from a frequency of 0, the following changes would occur. Start at 0, add 1, subtract 2, add 3, add 1, and then the end frequency is 0. And then they give you a couple other situations. +1, +1, +1 results in 3, of course. +1, +1 minus 2 results in 0. So starting with a frequency of 0 was the resulting frequency after all the changes have been applied. So, okay, let's look at the input. To play, please identify yourself. Alright, so you gotta pick one of these services. I'll just use GitHub. It's probably easiest for me. Okay. Sure. I'll be Tips Tech. Sure. Sponsored join code. Whatever. Don't need that. Alright. Looks like it just gave it to me again here. Alright, to begin, get your puzzle. So it looks like I get puzzle input, and then I gotta do an answer. So puzzle input looks just be a bunch of numbers. So these are all my frequency changes. Look at a big one. Plus 120,000. Alright, so I'll just start by taking all these. Okay. I'll leave that down here. So I'm going to create a new file first to put all these inputs. So I'll call it inputs.txt, paste everything there. I don't know if I zoom that enough. We'll see in a second. All right, so that's my inputs. So now I need to start by 0 and then just apply +9 to 0 and then +15 to 9 and then so on and so forth. But that seems a lot like just a sum to me. So I'm pretty sure I just sum this list and that's going to be the answer. But I will, yeah, let's try that out. Depending on how challenging these are, I don't think it's going to be that challenging. But if it's not super challenging, then I'll do it in 2 languages. Okay, so we'll do day 1. We'll do this one in Python. So the first is getting all those inputs. So we'll just do inputs equals open inputs.txt. And then we'll do read lines. That should be enough to get me all of the stuff I need. Oh, got a bunch of ends. Alright, so I'll do read. Split on new line. Alright, that's what I wanted. Great. And then I just need to sum all these up. Since they're strings, I'm going to have to convert them to integers. So this should be as easy as doing sum int I for I in inputs. See what that gets me. Nope. Oh, because I got that blank string. Screw me up. Alright, so we'll do strip. $437. Could that be the answer? Guess we'll see in a second. That's the right answer. Look at that. Gold star from me, huh? Okay, so just to recap what we did there, it was just a list of numbers. So I opened that list of numbers. I read it. I then called strip, which stripped off all the white space and new lines and stuff at the end. And then I split it by new lines. So that basically gave me a list of all the numbers. I then just casted each number. Well, because the numbers were strings, they weren't actually numbers at the time, they were strings. So I converted to an int I for I in inputs, which gave me a list of all the numbers, and I summed them. So that's pretty simple. I'll just mark that puzzle 1. I know there's a second puzzle, so check that out now. All right, moving on. Okay, so part 2, you notice that the device repeats the same frequency change list over and over. To calibrate the device, you need to first find the frequency it reaches twice. For example, using the same list of changes above, the device will loop as follows. Okay, so the upper one had 4 inputs, so it went to 1, -1, 2, 3, and I guess it starts over. 1 goes to 4, -2 goes to 2, 2 has been seen. All right. So it looks like we're just going to keep applying the frequencies over and over, starting at 0. So we'll apply the whole list of frequencies, and then we're going to see if we get the same frequency twice. If we don't, we'll loop over the list again, and we'll run it again, and again, and again, and again, and again. I guess that's what I got to do here. Well, maybe I should read more. In this example, the first frequency reached Twice is 2. Note that your device might need to repeat its list of frequencies many times before a duplicate frequency is found, and that duplicates might be found while in the middle of the processing list. So if the inputs are +1, -1, it would go up to 1, down to 0, and then up to 1, down to 0, so it reaches 0 twice. 3, 3, 4, -2, -4 reaches 10 twice. Okay, so what is the first frequency your device reaches? Alright, no problem. So I'll start by, I'll do a list. So I know I'm going to need to track basically numbers that have been found. So I'll say like scene, is empty list. And then I need to track the current frequency. It's going to be 0. So I need 2 loops here. I need an infinite loop, and then I need a loop where I go through every input. So I'll do for I in inputs, and then so the same thing I did here. I need to apply each input to f, and then I need to add f to my list, and then I need to check and just keep doing that, and then check if I need to apply the input to f, and then I have to check to see if f is in the list. If it is, then we're done. If it's not, then I need to add it to the list. So when I find a duplicate in the list, that would mean that I've found it twice, and then that would mean that I've satisfied the requirements for the program. So it should be fairly simple. We'll do f plus equals int I, and then I will do if, let's see, f in scene. So if I find it in there, then I'm done. I can just print f and then just quit. That's probably easiest. That looks messy. I could probably do that better. We'll see in a second. If it's not in scene, then I append it. Yeah, that looks right. All right, let's run this, see what happens. All right, so it gave me that first one. That's the first answer. It's taken forever, though. So I didn't expect this because probably what's happening here is the way the challenge is set up is it's making it so it has to loop through it. So this is probably a two-part thing. So I probably did the obvious solution here, and I'm sure given sufficient time it would finish, but they probably want me to optimize. And so we can fix this. I think the biggest problem here is the fact that every time I do f in scene, this is fine if it has to read through it like once or twice, but the time complexity to look for a given integer in a list is on, where n is the number of items in the list. So very slow if I have to run that 10,000 times or whatever. So what I can do instead is I can use a set. A set will give me O1 complexity regardless of the size. And I think that's going to speed this up. So let me just quit out of that. So if I want to convert this to a set, it should be fairly simple. Let's change that to set. And then change that to add. Whew, that was fast. 655. Could that be the answer? I bet it is. Let's have a look. 655. Oh yeah. Okay, well that's a cool puzzle. It's a cool puzzle because that puzzle it makes you think about two things here. It makes you think about the actual logic to figuring out, how to like satisfy the requirements of the challenge, but also I don't know how long the list version would have taken it. I don't know, 4 hours? I have no idea. I mean, I watched it for probably a minute, and that didn't do it. So that's cool. That's cool that they make you do it a certain way, or you just sit and stare at your computer spinning, hundreds of times. So For those, I see a couple things in the chat, wondering why set's faster. The reason why set is faster is because set uses hash tables. And to see if a given value is in a set, it needs only check if the hash of the value contains anything in it. And that's an O1 operation. Whereas a list, when you do F in scene, what it's doing is it's starting at the beginning of scene, it's scanning everything in that list to find a F, and then if it finds it, great, true. If it doesn't find it, then false. So with a set, I could have 10 billion items in a set, and it's still going to be snappy because it doesn't have to do that scan. So that's a neat problem. Let's see. Yeah, somebody says hash tables are expensive to resize. That's true. The other downside of a hash table in this case is a set is only for unique values. So if you need to store data that's duplicating, then you can't use a set anyways. Okay, well that didn't take me that long. Let's write this up in a second language. And yeah, you know what that second language is. It's Node.js. And I will publish these solutions to GitHub, although I don't know if they use different input. I don't know if I had to download an input file. I seriously doubt that everybody gets that same input file. That'd be kind of pointless. So with JS, and I'll split this down the middle. Let's see, split right. Okay. So do the JS version. So const fs require fs. So this is going to let us open up the actual file, and I noticed that there's a lot of pre-cleanup I got to do. I got to read it. I got to trim the white space. I got to do a bunch of. Oh, okay. Yeah, Pratam said no. It was a different input for me. My first answer was 591. Okay, so you're going to get your own input file. So I'm going to not. I'll check in my input file, but don't use my input file if you want to, if you want to do your own. So to read this, so I'll do puzzle 1 first. So my inputs is going to be fs.read file sync, inputs.text. I will do toString. I will trim. I will split on a new line, and then I will convert each item to an integer. And that should be good for that. So let me make sure that that's my actual. Let's make sure this has what I expect it to have in here. Okay, yep, that's what I wanted. Cool. So to sum that up, I need to do input.reduce the accumulator and next value. I'm just going to move that over. Okay. A is the accumulator, B is the next value, A plus B, 0 is the first accumulation value, and that should be my sum. And it is. So 437. So that's my sum. He said, wow, JavaScript sucks. No, it doesn't. No negative talk. JavaScript is a good language. I love it. It just may not be as, for various tasks like what you just saw. Of course, it's not as clean, but it gets the job done. I still like it. JavaScript's good in my eyes. Okay, so for the second puzzle, JavaScript has sets. I guess it does. New set. How about that? f equals 0, infinite loop, inputs dot for each input, f plus equals input, if scene has f, console.log f, and I'll review all this in a second. Process.exit, otherwise scene.add f. So the same thing I did here, I actually don't know if that works. I'll be shocked if that all worked, but I'm really just doing the same thing here. You know, for semicolon, semicolon, that's my infinite loop. Inputs.for each, that's the equivalent of the for I in inputs. I'm adding input to f, and input is already an int. I didn't have to do like I did in Python, so I can just add it directly. And then for JavaScript with sets, you got to do .has. You're saying does it have this? Isn't there some function for arrays? I'm not aware of one. I suppose there could be one, but if there is one, I'm not aware of it. And then scene.add, that just adds it to the list. So let's have a look, see if that works. Yep, so that worked. And that was just as quick. So, you know, as you can see, even though it's JavaScript, it's not like sets in JavaScript are slower than sets in Python, or if they are, it's negligible in terms of the difference, you know, because they're all implemented at a low level in the same way. So now we got two solutions for two languages, and I think we're all set there. Yeah, we're good. I'm trying to think of a third language I could do. We're only 40 minutes in. We got 20 minutes left. Let's see. Nope, I think I'm just going to stop there. Okay. So does anybody have any questions about what I did here? This particular puzzle. I can answer those. You gotta do it and see. Do it in Bash. I suppose I could have. Okay, I'm gonna go back to questions for now, and if you have any questions about advent of code, oh, actually, sorry, I'm not going back to questions because we gotta do some EMKC. If there's no, yeah, do it in assembly, yeah. So if there's no questions about this, I will check out EMKC, and I want to show everybody that this is sort of the first time that I'm showing somebody EMKC stuff in a live stream. So if you haven't heard of EMKC, then you'll get to hear about it now. EMKC also has some challenges you can do. So for those not aware what EMKC is Engineer Man Knowledge Center. And we got some challenges over here too. Only a few of them. So if you're not on Engineer Man Knowledge Center, you can go over to it by going to emkc.org, and there's going to be a login button at the top right. So be a login button there. You can click login. It'll say login with Discord. Currently, you have to be a Discord member to get onto EMKC. So you click login with Discord. It'll say connect to Discord, Engineer Man. Authorize, and then poof, you're back here. Of course, that just logged me in as my alt, but whatever. All right. So you can click on different challenges. There's easy challenges, there's medium challenges, and hard. And also, if you do challenges on EMKC, you get special roles on Discord. EMKC Novice, Hero, Master, and Legend. And you get a certain amount of points for each challenge. So if you want to get a special color, a special role on Discord, then go forth and complete some challenges. So like we got reverse a string, and you have a number of different options you can pick from. JavaScript, Python, Go, C, Ruby. Yep, there's a link in the chat now for it. C++, C#, PHP, Swift, and Java. You can pick whichever one you want, and then you'll notice it says unsolved. So as you solve these, that will turn green. Well, it'll turn the same color as the challenge. Like the yellow ones or the medium ones are yellow. And then the hard ones are red. So pick whichever one you want. And then, so once you do pick a language, like Python, for instance, so you'll have sort of two sides of the challenge. On the left side, there's there's what the challenge is, give you instructions, like your input variable could contain a variety of string values. Regardless of value, you need to reverse the string and print it out. So value 1 will contain the string to reverse, and you'll notice value 1 is already here for you. You just have to write your solution, down there. So it has a couple sample test cases. Sample string. If the system gives you cat, then you should output TAC. If the system gives you SD, number sign, money sign, so on and so forth, then you should output the reverse of that. So yeah, so and then finally there's the button called execute. What execute's going to do is it's going to take your code that you wrote, it's going to send it to EMKC server, it's going to send it off to Piston, it's going to execute that code, it's going to send the values back, and it's going to test to see if it was correct. So like if I just click execute with nothing, you'll see I get test results, simple string failed, complex string failed, and it'll tell you what it supplied, what was expected, and what you actually provided. And of course, that's both failures. So, if I were to just print value 1, of course, it's not the right solution, but it will say supplied engineer man, expected engineer man backwards, but actually got engineer man, the correct way. So once you know what you got to do, and this is a simple solution, it's just : -1, which is Python's way of reversing a string. So when I execute it now, you'll see testing simple string passed, testing complex string passed, and then you'll see over here it says solved. So that's it. Done. I completed it. When I go back to challenges, it does say I solved it, only in one language. And then on this page, it shows solved for Python, but all the rest are unsolved. And you get points for every language you do it in. So I got 10 points just now. Now you don't get your points immediately. Your points get updated about once. There it is. So now I got 10 points. And I get 10 points for every one of these I do. So if I go to JavaScript, I can do the JavaScript code for it. So I passed that. That one's solved. I now have 2 of them solved. Solved and solved. So yeah, everybody go and try it out. Registration's simple. It's Discord login. You don't need another password or email or any of that garbage. It's all hooked to Discord, and you get rewarded in Discord for the stuff you do. There's also a leaderboard on the front page. Right now, the real Jeebus is coming in at number 1, 370 points. Crazy. Cold Kill is number 2, 220 points. And Just a Bubble is 120 points. And that's our top 3. I actually don't recognize Just a Bubble. He must have came in and just did nothing but challenges for all of yesterday. And yeah, and you're competing against a bunch of people. There's about 270 something members on EMKC at the moment. So yeah. And I'm adding new challenges all the time. There's tons of challenges on GitHub that are pending to be added. The team's working hard on getting these moving. So eventually I hope to have about 50 of these. And then people can just do challenges all the time. Sometimes the medium, is the medium one that hard? I don't know. Some of these might not be in the right area, but I did my best to, put them in the right spot. But yeah, and certainly if you have any suggestions for challenges, or if you have any comments on a challenge, just reach out to me or a staff member on Discord, and we'll have a look at that. And it's also all this is open source. EMKC is open source. Piston's open source. FelixBot is open source. Everything that's part of the Engineer Man community is all open source. So you can check it out on GitHub, github.com/engineer-man, and yeah, have a look at it all. It's all there for you. Okay, back to some questions. All right, let me just catch myself up. All right, Melvin, I answered your question. Christian Tan answered your question. Can you let me know about any good Python library that can send or receive email messages? That's a good question. I don't actually know. I'm sure it was like Python Mailer. I'm not sure. If anybody knows that, they should put it in the chat. I'm not exactly sure what the best mailing thing is. For incoming, that's a totally separate story. Let's see. Spencer, does the speed difference even matter between C++, C, and Python? Wouldn't it depend on what you're making? So that's a good question. I like that because that's kind of an optimization question. So you can imagine that if you do an operation in Python and it takes 1 millisecond, if you can make that operation happen in zero point 0.9 milliseconds by doing it in C, but the trade-off is you have to write a lot more code, is it really necessary to do? Is it really worth that speed gain? Sure, it is a 10% gain, but that's just percentages. It's not a massive gain otherwise. So it's like with anything else, there is no silver bullet language that is super easy to write and super, super fast. And that's because the reason languages get slower is because they offer abstractions that make coding easier for the developer. So yeah, the reason in Python you can do a equals 1, a equals true, a equals engineer man is because it supports dynamic typing. But on the back end, there's necessarily inefficient things that are occurring. Excuse me. There's inefficient things occurring on the back end that make it slower. And but on the front end you get to do dynamic typing, and so that's a benefit to some people. So I think you got to pick, is speed really important to you based on the project? Sometimes it might not be. If it is, it makes sense to just do it in an easier language, because easier languages, you can create software for less. Obviously it's objectively true that you can write code faster in Python than in C, but it's also objectively true that C is faster in a number of areas than Python, so it's all a trade-off. We use preforce at work. Sorry, perforce. What advantages, disadvantages would state get and preforce have over another? So I'm not familiar with perforce, but Git is a distributed version control, and one of the big differences between distributed version control and centralized version control is going to be the fact that every single person has their own copy of a repo. And this has a couple of huge benefits. One of the benefits is that it's harder to lose code. When every single person has a copy of that repo, it's tougher to lose that code. The second thing is, with centralized systems, you check out files you need, and then you check them back in later. And yeah, in case of fire, you'll still have code. This is not true with centralized, unless you have a backup of the centralized code base. But if you just have one centralized code base and it gets destroyed, well, sorry, goodbye. There goes your code. But with distributed, everybody has a full-fledged copy of the repo, and everybody's copy of the repo can merge into somebody else's copy. And that's extremely powerful. It's extremely powerful for a number of reasons. But perforce, I don't know what that is. Is that like, we'll talk about that after stream. I want to know more about that. Which is better, Python, Django, or Flask? or Node. Of course, you're going to get a biased answer from me. I'm able to write, web software really, really fast in Node.js, but I'm certain that an experienced Django developer with Python, the stream is just probably another 5 to 8 minutes, then we'll be done. So I think they're both. I've written software in Python Flask, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was nice. It's just I have more experience in Node.js, so I picked that. So I don't want to pick between the two. I think they're both good enough to produce anything you'd like to produce. How come you're not using PyCharm? Well, I'm not using PyCharm because PyCharm costs money, and I don't do that much like raw Python. I'm always like the features that and I know there's a free version of Python. Sorry, of PyCharm. I know that, but the features I need only come in the paid version, and so I just don't want to do that. I don't want to have to pay for software. I used to use PyCharm. I used PyCharm, PHP Storm, WebStorm, all this stuff. IDEA, IntelliJ, the whole JetBrains suite of everything, and it burned a hole in my wallet. So I didn't have much of a choice but to kind of move on to something with less of a financial burden. Have you ever had to reverse engineer a piece of software? Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, actually, I famously reverse engineered a piece of software. I used to be into cryptocurrency mining, and one of the things in that was people provide this software for you, and what the software does is as you're mining for yourself, it's also mining for the author of the software for a period of time, and that's I see it as robbery. They're robbing you. They're not giving you an option of paying. They're just taking it. There's no way to verify it. So what I did is I broke down that software and I worked to understand how they were stealing that money. And then when I did, I put an end to it. I ended up finding their address, and I ended up using I'm trying to remember what I did. So they're using certificate pinning and SSL, which meant I couldn't decrypt their traffic. So what I end up having to do is I end up having to write a custom version of kmalloc, which is the Linux kernel malloc for allocating memory. And so when his software called malloc, which in turn called kmalloc, I looked for his address and I replaced it in memory. And what that caused it is when the software decided to go mine for somebody else, for him, it ended up just mining for me. So yeah, take that. And that's probably one of the coolest reverse engineer kind of things I've ever done. That was a huge thing too. And of course I put it on a Bitcoin talk and the guy was real pissed off, but whatever. Did you ever try data science or machine learning? If you want data science and machine learning, you're going to want to go over to CentDesk. I'm sorry, CentDex. I can't believe I just call him CentDesk. CentDex. He does excellent data science, machine learning stuff, and that's not my area of expertise. I wish I could provide some content like that, but you guys deserve the best content. You guys deserve the highest quality, best content you can get, and I cannot deliver that for machine learning at the moment. So I always try to make sure that I deliver high quality content for the CentDex. I don't know why I pronounced that wrong. So he's a very fine engineer, and you should go see him for all your AI and ML kind of stuff. We think about cloud-based IDEs. Yeah, I'm actually glad. I'm glad you posted that. Cloud-based IDEs are kind of an interesting concept. They started showing up. I started seeing them a lot about 4 years ago, 3 to 4 years ago, and I'm I think they're cool in theory. The one thing I do like about cloud IDEs is they have a great deal of integration they can do because you're already developing in the cloud. The obvious problem with cloud IDEs is, for number one, you need internet, so that's a problem. And number two, you don't have control of your stuff. And I don't know if you can integrate with things locally that you might need. So, like, I run a server in my home, and I rely on that for, yeah, that's the other thing, stealing code, people stealing code. Can you trust the people? And I've seen enough code theft and IP theft to know that companies should not be trusted implicitly just because they offered a nice thing. So I think cloud IDEs, they have a long way to come, but I think if done right, they can be useful in some ways. Oh, cool. My personal take on Java versus Python. So rather than doing Java versus Python, I'd rather just do, you know, highly verbose, highly powerful, but difficult to write due to static/strong typing versus also quite powerful, less fast, but easy to write, dynamic, and weak typing. So it's all just a trade-off of speed of your code and speed of your development. So if, like for instance, if you're working in startup and you need to get code out the door as fast as you possibly can because investors are breathing down your back and you're trying to get to market, it's a race, it's an arms race, it's a brand new market, and you got to get code out. Why are you going to go grab Java? That's just going to slow you right down. Especially because you're probably going to throw away the code anyways and do it differently because you're racing so fast to market. So it's all a trade-off. I'm sure Java's a fine choice if you have tons of Java developers or you need, or you're part of big corporate and they need some guarantees on security or whatever, then I'm sure it has its place, but if you're just looking to make a website that's reasonably fast or some software, like pick something else. There's no point in doing Java. Okay, let's see. I'm new here. I don't know if you answered this already. What's the longest, hardest piece of code you ever wrote? I did answer this, but I'll answer it again. The most challenging piece of code I have ever written in my entire life is going to be I tried to build my own programming language. And that was, without question, the hardest thing that I've ever attempted. That was the biggest, most gnarly project I've ever done. And I didn't get that far into it. It's very difficult, but it was fun to do. So that would be the one. Not necessarily the longest. I mean, I guess I don't know what you mean by longest. I don't know if you mean like 10,000 lines of code or if you mean just 10,000 files of 100 lines each. But that was certainly the hardest. Thoughts on most new open source software being written in Go? Frustrates me a little. So I guess it depends on if you're just an end user of open source software, then do you really care what it's written in? But if you're planning on contributing or if you're planning on taking open source software and mutating it to meet a specific use case, then yeah, I could see why people writing it in Go might be a bit frustrating because Go is new. So the likelihood of having talent that is good in Golang is lower. So I suppose that would make sense. It doesn't bother me. I guess one of the biggest Go projects that I know of is Docker, and Docker is huge tech. They're doing all kinds of stuff. So You could try to write a custom kernel for Linux. Yeah, I feel like that's like expert mode plus plus. Writing your own language is expert mode, and writing your own kernel. I suppose if I got the language done and I liked it and it worked and whatnot, then I guess writing my own kernel or operating system, that's got to be sort of the next thing. But yeah, not to downplay that. I'm pretty sure that's harder than anything I've ever done, including the writing my own language piece. Is me getting an MS in computer science better than a job? What does that mean? Uh, well, can you not do both? I think you can do both. That would make sense. All right. So we're just about at the end. We're about 1 minute over. If there's any, I'm just looking for any last questions here that I may have missed. Okay, I covered that. Covered that. Hashtag, yep, PyCharm. I think I got everybody's question that I'm aware of. So I think we're good. I think we'll cut the stream off now. Hopefully everybody enjoyed it. Make sure to check out Advent of Code and make sure to use the code that's in the Advent of Code channel on Discord because it contains a private leaderboard, so you can rank yourself amongst those in the Engineer Man community, including myself. I'm gonna do it too. And if you're not on Discord, come check it out. engineerman.org/discord or discord.gg/engineerman, thanks to the new partnership. So check out there. Check out EMKC for more challenges. And check out the video tomorrow. And check out the cool videos that are coming that are not Node.js related. I think you'll like them. I think they're going to be a lot of fun. And I'm in Discord all the time. Anybody that's our stream regulars, I see Tomatu here. I see several other people that I recognize. Mr. Kelly there. I've seen you. Of course, all my staff. Yeah, thanks to the regulars that support the stream every single time. I appreciate that. Come into Discord and have fun. I'm there all the time. Literally. It's up on my screen all day. So ping me or ping whoever if you want to have a chat about stuff, and yeah, it'll be fun. Okay, that's it. Thanks for tuning in for the stream. If you're just tuning in and you missed it all, as soon as I click stop streaming, it's going to upload to YouTube, so you can check it out there. And that's it. Hope everybody has a great rest of their weekend, and I'll see you on the server or see you in future videos. Take care.